Hey, what's up everybody? This is KG from Jaw7. In today's video, we're gonna have an exclusive interview with one of the players from South Texas, exclusively in the RGV from Team Pocket in Mission, Texas. And right now I have with me on Discord, Cesar Perez from the Pocket. Cesar, go and say hello to everyone out there that's listening right now.
How you doing, everybody?
Yeah, what's up, man? Yeah, so first of all, I want to tell you congratulations, man, on making day 2 for the Orlando Regionals. How does that feel to get that under your belt for the second time this year, man? How does it feel? Now, first one was in San Antonio, and the second one, I mean, how does it feel, man? Talk to me about that experience or that reward, or, you know.
I mean, it feels great, you know. You play here locally, and you know you try to win, the cups, the challenges, but just to do it at a regional level, it's completely different, man. It's a great experience.
Yeah, definitely, man. And you did it at San Antonio. You day 2'd, and then you day 2'd. So, and that's because you only been to just 2 regionals, right? 2 regionals so far?
Orlando was my 3rd regional. I had gone to Arlington last year.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I didn't do so great. That was my first regional. I was nervous, seeing over 1,000 people, so it gets you nervous.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely. But for at least this year, you did pretty well going to San Antonio and then coming to Orlando. So yeah, folks. So we have Cesar here today with us. He's gonna talk to a little bit about his run at Orlando, talk about his list, talk about his day 1, day 2. But before we do that, let's kind of go back to the beginning. So Cesar, tell us how did you get into the Pokemon TCG and the history? Where'd you pick up the game and where'd you play? Where did it all begin?
Well, I started playing Pokemon, and it was my first TCG back in late 2016, early 2017.
Okay.
I know a few of my friends were playing it, and I was like, well, what are they playing? They're playing Pokemon. What are they? They're like 20 years old, 25 years old, and they're still playing Pokemon. But
and where was this? Where was this at?
It was like at a friend's house. It was Hector and Abdiel and like really old players that they're not really active anymore, but they're the ones that introduced me to the game.
Oh, okay.
And I started playing at the end of XY and the beginning of Sun and Moon. And at the time I wasn't competitive, I was just playing a bunch of jank. It wasn't until Buzzwole Lycanroc that I started playing a competitive deck. But I wouldn't travel, I would just play locally and stuff like that. And then I stopped playing for a few years, and then I came back at the end of Sun and Moon, beginning of Sword and Shield. And again, I was just playing jank until VMAXs came out. And I started getting competitive again with Dragapult. So back like 4 years ago.
Oh, okay. Did you play during the tag team? I know that was kind of like before the pandemic, like before everything shut down. And did you get a chance to play tag team or no? I know you said Sun and Moon.
Yeah, I played a little bit of the tag team. Like I said, I was playing jank. I was playing like a Dark Box, Greninja Zoroark GX deck. So yeah, I didn't really play much of it. It was more towards the the VMAX, Samazenta, Seishin, that kind of era.
Right. And okay, so what about, was this your first card game that you got into, or were you playing other card games before? Do you have experience playing card games, or was this your first one that kind of led you to to other card games?
This was my very first card games. My very first card game, I did dabble in Flesh and Blood. I want to say maybe like a year and a half ago. It was a fun game, but it got too expensive. So Pokemon's always been there. It's relatively cheap, so I never let it go. Yeah,
it's very budget friendly. You can make a deck, $100 competitive deck, compared to the thousands of Magic and I personally haven't played Flesh and Blood, but I've heard through you all. So yeah, so that's cool, man. All right, cool. So we got a little bit of history of Cesar out there and playing. And where would you play? I'm assuming you just the Pocket pretty much. Did you ever play Geeks and Jocks or no?
Yeah, I would go to Geeks and Jogs here and there. I would go to Myth back when Myth had a league. There was one in Edinburgh. I think it was called like Players Dungeon. I don't know what it was called. I may have the name mixed up, but it was in
Gamers Guild, maybe.
Gamers Guild. There you go.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then when Leo opened the Pocket in 2020, I was one of the first people that went there and started playing there. It was like a little 10x10 shop where you couldn't fit more than 3 tables.
Yeah, I heard about that. You know, I heard about the glory days back then, and I believe, I believe Mark, he would go every now and then before, and I would hear him like Pocket, you know, and Leonidas, I think 956, that was the name I saw roam around online at the time. So cool, man. Yeah. Cool. All right, well, there you go, folks. That is the background of our day 2 player, Cesar Perez. And so, yeah, pretty cool to hear that. So, all right, so let's talk about Orlando Regionals, and let's talk about your deck list selection. So, was there, as far as you testing or deck selection, talk to us about your process, or talk about, like, how did it come to, what made you to decide Lugia, and, you know, tell us that story of how you decided to try Lugia and whatnot. Normally, you're a Lost Box player, you know, with the Giratina or Turbo Box, but now you went to Lugia. So just talk to us about that and your deck selection and your thought process for Lugia to this past regional.
Yeah, well, I had taken a Lost Tina to San Antonio Regionals, and with the loss of Battle VIP, I didn't really like the deck anymore. I know it's still like topping at regionals and ICs and stuff, but I personally didn't like it anymore. And I was testing Charizard. So for the 3v3 tournament, I had played Zard. I had played Zard for a few weeklies here and there, but I wasn't comfortable with it. I feel like I myself wouldn't draw the cards that I needed. So I went into Orlando Regionals with the same mentality that I wanted to beat the most popular deck, and of course it's Charizard. So that's what I did in San Antonio. That was my same game plan for Orlando. So Lugia has a really good matchup against Charizard. Has a really good matchup against Tina, which I thought were going to be the 2 most popular decks. And it was funny enough, I only played 1 Charizard the whole day 1 and day 2. That didn't really help me out. And I did play a couple Lost Tinas day 1. I did play 2 Lost Tinas day 2, so I was correct about that. But it didn't do quite well against other decks.
Right, I see. Yeah, and in front of us we have your list right now. And what did you now? Did you try look at your list that we have in front of you? I know some lists have 2 Snorlax, some have 1. Do you remember what you cut out for the 1 Snorlax? What did you put in? Did you put another Mencino? Is that what I'm looking at? I know you have 4. Some have 3, have 4, but do you remember what you cut out for the Snorlax?
Yeah, so a lot of lists run only 1 Lumineon, and 2 Snorlax. So I did the opposite. I ran 2 Lumineon, 1 Snorlax. The list that I ran was a pretty generic list. The only thing I would say was not a major change, but a big change would be what's it called? Great Ball. I changed it in for a Lost Vacuum, because the Future Box Iron Hands deck is really strong against Lugia, and that's the only way you can beat it. If you lost on one of their batons, then they lose an attacker, or they struggle getting an attacker set up.
Right.
But, other than that, like I said, I seen the list with the Mew, I seen the list with the Luxray and the Reversal Energy. I just didn't want to run them because I had play tested them before the regional. I just didn't like the consistency of it. I like the consistency of the more generic version. And the only card I was debating also switching was the Master Ball. Master Ball, once you use it, once you set up your Archeops, it's really kind of useless. I was thinking of the Prime Catcher, but I ended up sticking with the Master Ball, and it did help me in a lot of scenarios where I would just Master Ball and Archeops, Ultra Ball it away, set up the Start Summoning, and get going with the energies.
Right, yeah, and a lot of, from what I understand, me playing it and 2 others that played it, you know, one of the biggest problems with this deck at the moment, when it's consistent, right? But I know one of the things is it also kind of gets very clogged. So I know we have Serena to get rid of some cards, Ultra Ball, you know. Did you ever think about adding the hand trimmer, the one that you can go down to 5 cards, or Was that ever a thought? You know, I know it was good against stall and control if they have a big hand, but was there any thought of adding the hand trimmer or anything weird in there just to kind of experiment? Anything else you experiment, you know, card wise?
The hand trimmer, I hadn't thought about it. I did play against, I forgot his name. I think his name's Alex. He plays at the pocket on Friday sometimes. Did play the trimmer one day. He got rid of his own Archeops that way, but I was like, no, it's a very situational card. I don't think I'll need it. But no, there was no crazy tech I wanted in there. I just wanted, you know, the most straightforward, I guess, consistent list you can have.
Right, definitely. And sometimes that's just keep it simple, don't reinvent the wheel, and just keep it simple, keep it consistent, and you know you'll have a good run, you know. So yeah, definitely, that's definitely not a bad mindset at all to go into a regionals, especially when you're doing 2 out of 3, you know, 9 rounds day 1 and then 6 rounds day 2. So yeah, definitely can't say no to that. You know, consistency is king, as once somebody would say. But
yeah, and playtesting wise, I like a little word of advice. If you playtest something, let's say all week, let's say you have a cup on Saturday and you playtest something all week, and you change it the day before, it's gonna come and bite you in the butt. I've done that plenty of times. I remember at a cup, I was gonna play Chen Pao, and last minute I switched. I think it was like, instead of running 4 Pokestops, I ran 3 Pokestops and a Lost City, and that Lost City would always be there in my hand when I needed a Pokestop. So I can say by experience, don't switch your deck last minute, or it's gonna haunt you.
Right? Yeah. Don't switch your deck. Don't add last minute changes once you're used to it. Like, you know, and yeah, definitely. Overthinking's a killer, but you know, it is. You know, we learn. You know, we all learn. We all been there, done that. So there you go, guys. You know, great advice from Cesar. Don't ever change last minute. Once you lock it in, just lock it in and get a good night's sleep, and you know, go at it. So, okay, man. So let's move on and let's talk about. I know you kind of dabbled a little bit into the day 1 experience, but talk to us about the day 1 experience at Orlando Regionals, and you know, just kind of talk to us here about your rounds as far as your matchups and what you played against. So day 1, have at it.
All right, so day 1, it started off pretty rough. Like I said, the worst matchup for Lugia is going to be Future Box, because you know Iron Hands hits you for weakness, takes the extra prize card, and that's exactly the first deck I played against. It was Future Box.
Wow.
Game 1, I won the coin flip. I decided to go first. I saw him flip the Mew, so you know Mew can be in a lot of decks. So I just had my Lugia in the active, my Cincino in the back. Attach, pass, and he donked me his very first turn. Hit 3 generators and knocked me out. Yes. So game 2, same thing. I know what he was playing already, so I tried setting up 2 Lugias. But the problem is that if you set up 2 Lugias, you can give him an easy 6 prize cards. I tried my best to keep the game going, but I couldn't find my vacuum for his baton, so he got 3 Iron Hands back to back to back. There's nothing I could do about that, so he beat me 2-0. Then starting off with the loss, you know, it's not the greatest feeling, and then going to the bottom tables, like I could see the very last table. I think I was like at a 1200 in the 1200s tables. I played a Charizard matchup, and like I said, it's a favorable matchup, but the player I was playing against was a little bit unexperienced, and he would take a lot of time deciding what to do. You know, he would shuffle his deck and he would go back in. So I wouldn't say he was, you know, wasting time. He was just an unexperienced player. So it ended up being in a tie. So starting 0-1-1, you know, you're seeing red. You want to do better. You see all your friends being 2-0 and 1-1 or 1-0-1. So I was like, I need to win these next couple matchups. And the third matchup, I was playing the Future Box. I was like, great, this is where my tournament ends. I'm gonna pack it up, go to Disney, go, you know, sightsee or something. But game 1, he took it. I was able to set up my Archeops, but he, you know, it was too fast. So he hit all his generators, he hit all his batons. Game 2, he completely bricked. He started off with an Iron Crowns and passed. I was able to set up my Archeops and knocked out his Iron Crown. He had another Iron Crown back to back up, but other than that, he had no Iron Hands, no generators, no nothing. So I was able to take game 2. And game 3, he let me go first because, you know, he wants to go second to get that early donk.
Right.
And I was able to set up my Archeops, knock out his first, vacuum his first baton, knock out his Iron Hands with my Mincino. He returned knocked out with his other Iron Hands, and you know, I had a backup Mincino already ready to go. So we were just trading 2 prizes for 2 prizes, but I was the one to take the first knockout, so I won the race. So at that point I got my first win until round 3, so I was like, you know, let's keep on going. Round 4 and round 5, round 4 I believe it was against the Raging Bolt. So I mean,
oh, interesting. Raging Bolt.
Yeah, it was a Raging Bolt with the Sandy Shocks.
Right.
And I mean, it's just 2 prizes, so my 1 prize Mincinos were able to take the knockouts easily. He did donk me game 1 because I started the Snorlax in the active and nothing else. He was able to get, you know, the Sada and attachment from hand and the energy switch for the knockout. But other than that, game 2 and game 3 I just obliterated him with my Archeops and my Cincinnos.
Wow. So I was gonna say, so from this point, can you is it safe to say that most of those games up until now, and I know you have a good story, you know, for your winning it, so we'll save it for that. But from up until this point, were most of your games where you set up real nicely with both Archeops with Summoning Star, or was there times that you had to like, okay, no, I need this one Archeops before I fall behind, or?
There was a few instances where I did have to go with only 1 Archeops because, you know, if you let your opponent get 1 more turn, then that's it. Like, they're just gonna get too far behind.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Continue. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. If I recall, I think it was round 5 or round 6. I had only set up 1 Archeops, but my opponent was playing Giratina. Okay. And I could see it in his face. Like every time he would Flower Select or every time he would Chorus, he would just get, I would guess like 5 good cards or 2 good cards that he didn't want to get rid of. Yeah. So he was just getting rid of like choruses and Mirage Gates and stuff like that. So I mean, I knew that with that 1 Archeops I would be fine because he wasn't getting what he needed, or he was getting rid of very good resources.
Okay. Okay. So after the the Giratinas, then you know, round 7, round 8, round 9, then.
Round 7 was against an Arctina player. Okay. And yeah, there was a little bit of an issue there with kind of, I would call it rule sharking, but okay, some people would he disagreed with me. Okay. Yeah, round 7, you know, we were both at, I believe we were both if we tied, it wouldn't really matter. We still had to win the next 2 games. You know, I'm a very, like, if people that play with me, you know, I'm a pretty chill guy, but if you poke me the wrong way, or if, you know, if you're rude in a certain way, you know, I'm gonna be rude back. Right. So at the end, we were both we went to terms after game 3, and he was like, well, I feel like you should just give me the win because I have the better board state. And I was like, no, I'm fine with the tie. And he got upset. That's what upset me even more. I was like, you know, it's a game. We're here to have fun, not to be upset at each other. He started yelling at me, saying like, "Oh, well, if we both tie, then we both have to win the next 2 games." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll win the next 2 games." And I mean, I didn't want to be cocky, but that's exactly what I did. Right. Yeah. And yeah. And again, and I talked about this in my other video. You know, like, you know, I get it about the gentleman's agreement. I mean, but you know, there's a certain way you go about it, and I'm assuming that was kind of said at his convenience, right? When his board state was looking pretty well. And I guess if it was the other way around, you know, not that you would do it, but would he have said yes? You know what I'm trying to say? Like, you know, he probably would have had said the same what you have said, you know, like, well, no, because, you know, would he really given you the win? You know, would he have really honored it? But
you know, but yeah, I totally get it. I totally understand. But doesn't matter because you won out. So this was against the Artina player, right? The Artina player.
Yeah, this is round 7, Artina. He was a cool guy at first, but as the game progressed, you know,
got serious.
When he saw that, he got more serious. And when he saw that he was behind, he started like, you know, any little thing he would call me out on. But you know, like I said, we're here to have fun, not to just be like picking at each other. So that really bothered me.
Right. And I was gonna say, well, just talking about the deck, did you get hand disrupted? I think that deck runs judges. So did you ever get judged, and did you recover from it? You know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Game 1, I took it easily. Game 2, I was about to Ultra Ball to Archeops for the Lugia, you know, and get rolling, but he did judge me into a really bad hand. And after that, I couldn't do anything Game 2, so that's the reason we went to Game 3. Otherwise, it would have been a 2-0 win. But yeah, those judges, those Ionos, I think he ran a Roxanne, but it didn't affect me because he did knock out one of my Cincinnos with the gift energy.
Wow, okay.
That wasn't that.
Right.
He did run a lot of disruption.
Yeah, they tend to do because they want to, you know, keep it simple, but you know, because most decks, including Zard, like it's very intricate that you need all these pieces, and then with 6 cards it's possible, but with 4 cards, and you know, the hand's gonna get clogged. So yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. Just curious about hearing about that. But okay, last 2 rounds, day 1, talk to us about that, like the win innings.
Yes. So round 8, I was like, okay, so I already got my tie. I need to get these last 2 wins. If I tie or if I lose either one of these next 2 games, I'm out, you know.
Right.
Fortunately enough, my round 8 opponent, he sits down. He looks very flustered. He looks very like, you know, he's out of it. And the judge was up to him and says, well, because of the incident that happened the round before, we had to give you a game 1 loss this round.
Oh,
and the judge looks at me. He says, so just to let you know, you'll need to win 1 game and you win the round. So I'm like, okay. Then when the judge leaves, I was like, oh, so what happened last game? So it turns out that after he had finished a match with his opponent, he got deck checked, and he was only playing with 59 cards.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. So since it was caught after the round, I guess the penalty followed him to the next round, and against me. So he got the game 1 loss. And the one game we did play, it was a really close game because he was playing the Turbo Lost Box, the new one with Iron Hands and the Raikou, etc.
Okay.
And
Miraidon too?
He was able to get no Miraidon. I think he had Hoopa in there.
Okay.
Hoopa and Mew, but he did lost on those. And of course, with the Raikou and with the Iron Hands, he did make it a close game, but I ended up winning it. So that was one of the wins I needed to get.
Right, best of 1. We take those.
best of 1 for me. For him, he had to win both games.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and then the last game for day 1 was against another Lost Zone Tina player, and I could tell he was really, really nervous. Like his hands were shaking. He was making, I don't know if it was the nerves or it was just inexperience, but he was making really bad choices. I remember at a certain point, I think he had 3 Grass Energies Lost Zone. I know that deck only runs 4, so I was like, okay, I get rid of his Tina with 1 Grass Energy, and he's done for the game until he finds a Rod or he finds something. So I was able to that game. I'm going to be honest. We did come with a gentleman's agreement, but that was, you know, before we started even game 1. That if it did go to turns, whoever had the least amount of prize cards, you know, would get the win, because a tie at that moment will literally, you know, take both of us out of contention.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't need it. I won game 1 pretty easily. Game 2, same thing. I was able to turn 2, Jock 2 Archeops, Ultra Ball them away, get Lugia going, get my Cincinnos going, and you know, just take game 2 very easily. So I won my last 2 win innings basically.
Wow, cool, man. And was there at any point, looking at your list, did you ever had a slap down 2 Luminions at one point, or 1 was enough to get the job done in your matches?
Well, I could say that playing two Luminions kind of bit me in the butt some games because I did start with two Luminions, and then you do need that second Luminion, so then you're stuck with two Luminions on the board.
Right.
And you only have one, so you can only get rid of one of them.
Right. Yeah. At most you can get rid of one, and then 2 or 3 prizes are just sitting there. Fish fillet.
Yeah, basically.
Cool, man. So at that point, you're just feeling pretty good, and then you turned in that slip for day 1, and of course, anyone that doesn't know, if you make day 2, you don't turn your deck in, you still keep it, and you get 6 more rounds. So after that, I'm sure you celebrated with the boys, huh? And went out and had a little fun, so to speak.
Yeah, we went out, we went to eat, we saw the UFC 300 fights. I didn't want to fall asleep too late because that did happen in San Antonio, where I didn't go to sleep till almost like 3 o'clock, and I was completely exhausted day 2. So I did sleep a little bit earlier this time around, so I can feel better for day 2.
Cool. Now going to day 2, what was that like, or your deck matches? As far as I know I think you dropped a little earlier, right, to catch your flight. But what were you playing at that point?
Yeah, so day 2, we get there early. They usually, last time we didn't start round 1 till 8:30. This time around, they did start a little bit earlier, 8 o'clock, so we had to show up earlier. And as soon as I walked into the venue, they let us know our pairings were up. And around 10, I look at my pairings and I'm playing Grant Manley. And if you follow the TCG, he's a really good player.
Yeah.
Like, he's won regionals, he's topped at like ICs, and I got a little bit nervous. But Jose, our friend from Monterrey, he had played him day 1. He told me, he's playing Tina, so I got a little bit more calm because I have a good matchup against Tina. It should be okay. Well, game 1, I was able to set up both Archeops. Took game 1 easily. Game 2, same thing. Like I couldn't set up my Archeops. I could only set up one, and these top players, they know their every deck in and out. So as soon as he saw me only slap one down Archeops, he went straight for it. So I was just manually trying to power up my Cincinnos, my Snorlax. My Lugia had already been powered up because I did take a 2-prize knockout on his Tina V. But after that, his deck was just too fast with no Archeops. And then game 3, it was we had maybe 10-15 minutes left, and I was able to set up both Archeops, but we're just going back and forth, just knocking each other out. And we ended up in a tie. And same thing. These players, they get super serious about stuff, and they take the fun out of everything. Like, not talking smack, but it was a very, very uncomfortable situation with Grant Manley.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm just gonna assume that he wanted a gentleman's agreement as well, or like kind of like something to where like, okay, I need the win or something like that,
Yeah, he was arguing that a tie wouldn't do anything for us, and there was when he knocked out my Snorlax. As he was knocking out my Snorlax, they called time, and he was arguing with me that, no, your turn 0. I'm like, no, you were attacking. You're in the process of attacking and knocking out my Pokemon. I hadn't even drawn, or I was in the process of drawing for my gift energy, not for turn.
Right.
So technically, he was turn 0.
Right. Resolve effects and.
Yeah. So he was arguing with me that I was turn 0, and of course, if I was turn 0, he would have 2 extra turns, and he only had 3 prize cards, so he would more than likely win. But I was glad that a judge was right there and he was watching our game, so he did resolve the issue, and he did clarify that as he was knocking out my Snorlax, time was called, so he technically was turn 0.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and sometimes that makes those kind of decisions make all the difference, because is it safe to assume that if he had that extra turn, would he have won the game? To close up the game, maybe, possibly, or? Yeah,
I'm pretty sure, because he just would have knocked out one of my baby Pokemons, either my Cincinnos or, well, I had 2 Cincinnos on the bench, so yeah, he would probably knock one of them out. And I know he still had 2 bosses and his Prime Catcher, so the gust effect wouldn't have been hard to get.
Okay. And all right, continue. Let's see.
Yeah, so that was my tie, you know, and day two is just a whole nother beast, man. Like you walk in day one, you have some, you know, some inexperienced players, but day two you just feel the difference. Everyone's serious, everyone's on their A game. So round 11, I play. I think his name was Justin Brothers. He was playing Lost Tina again. You know, and both games I couldn't set up. I could not set up my Archeops. I think game one I did set up my Archeops, but I could not set up attackers to save my life. I couldn't set up Snorlax. I couldn't set up my Cincinnos. I couldn't set up anything. So he was running me over. And then game two, I had both Archeops in my hand, and I researched, and he was like, "Wow, it's a pretty good research." But when I draw my 7 cards, I draw all 4 of my gift energies, my therapeutic energy, and I think a boss. And I forgot what the other card was, but it was like a useless card at the moment. So I was like, yeah, very great research. So I ended up reading the win because I didn't even get a Lugia V to get my Archeops out. And then from that moment, he just took the game. You know, Temple of Sinnoh to knock out my Lugia with his Lost Impact, and you know, I scooped. I was like, you know what, there's no point of continuing this. You got the game.
Yeah, like if you took out your only Lugia V, and you know, and you had no way of recovery, yeah, totally understandable. So okay, so that's what, round 3, round 4, I mean, sorry, round 10, sorry, or 11 or 12.
Yeah, it was around 11, and then round 12, at this point I'm 0-1. I play, I think his name was Brendan. I don't know, I forgot his last name, Brendan something. And he was, as soon as I saw him, me and Ray saw him, he was wearing the Shuffle Squad jersey. You know, the same thing if you follow the TCG like YouTube, you know who those guys are.
Yeah.
And
Zach
he was playing, Zach Lasage's team. He was playing Ancient Box with the Roaring Moon, the baby Roaring Moon, and the Koraidon.
Roaring Moon
that's
EX?
Another. That's
EX or no?
No, EX. It's the baby.
Okay.
Yeah, he was running that with the Flutter Mane. The Flutter Mane kind of gave me an issue game 1 because you know, my Lugia was in the active, so I couldn't start summoning the active, so I had to find my way around that with the Jet Energy. So game 1, I was able to take it. My Lugia was able to tank a hit, take 2 of his prizes, and then it was just a 1 prize trade. Game 2 and game 2 couldn't set up my Archeops. For some reason, they just didn't want to come out. I think I checked my prizes. Well, I checked my deck, and I believe I had 3 Ultra Balls prize. So I was like, great. Ooh. Like, how am I? The only way of getting these in the discard pile is through research or Serena. And then game 3, we go to game 3, and I start Lumineon. My hand is completely garbage. I think I started with two Cincinnos in my hand and in research, so I was like, I can't get rid of these. If I get rid of these, there goes all my attackers, and I need 1 prize attackers for this matchup, because it gets to a point where the Roaring Moon, is just taking 1-hit knockouts on anything. So at that point, I tried my best, and I can only get 1 Archeops down. He took it out, and I just gave him the game. Same thing. I didn't want to prolong it any longer. I knew it was you know, inevitable, the loss.
Okay.
And then in my last round that I played, there was 2 more rounds, but like you said, I had to catch my flight. Was against another Future Box.
Okay.
And he 2-0'd me. He donked me game 1. Game 2, I set up my Archeops, but by that point, he had already taken 3 prize cards, so I ended up giving him the win again. And at that point, I was 0-3-1. There was no way I was gonna get top 32 or top anything. So I just told these guys, like, no, let's go get something to eat, catch our flight. I don't have to worry about playing these last 2 rounds.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So it just seems kind of like day 2, like everything started to like not function for you as far as the deck. It kind of just stopped working, or it just sounded like you had one or the other pretty much in scenarios that you can properly set up to play against you.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of, you know, it kind of blows, because like what would have been like if you had properly set up, and what kind of games you had had with some elite players that you mentioned, right? I mean, but if they knocked out some of your cards to like not give you good proper board state, then you're right, what's the point of going on, right? So I understand, like I get what you're trying to say, where it's like, okay, like, you know, like they have control over what you have, because they're just going to knock out what you're trying to do, whether it's a B star or whatnot. So it's very unfortunate, but sometimes that's how the game rolls, you know, in that kind of situation. So really can't do much about it if you draw into what you can't use, pretty much. So
yeah, basically it was a mixture of my deck not working and really bad matchups.
Right.
Well, 2 really bad matchups.
Yeah, definitely. So, but I mean, hey, you got there, and that's the most important part, because you know, just to give you perspective to anyone that wants to do day 2, when you make a day 2, you're literally like, you know, you're, especially that this is like the largest regionals. I think there's what, 26, like 2,600 or some players. Like, you know, San Antonio, we thought San Antonio was big, right? And it was, but it just gets bigger and bigger. I know back in the day, regionals would be nearly 900 players, you know, like crazy, right? But 900 players. And then we evolved into this enormous, which is good for the game, obviously, right? You know, good for the game. But like we evolved into this almost hitting 3K or 2,500, you know, like it's crazy. So, but that's good, you know, it's good. And you making day 2 with all those players, I mean, it's not easy. It's really not easy. Playing 9 rounds, 2 out of 3, you know, and out of the entire RGV, you know, you're the only one that did it, you know, consistently, you know, from San Antonio here of the times you went. So, you know, it's pretty crazy. So yeah, what an accomplishment for you. And that's awesome. So yeah. So in closing, what did you do? You just got something to eat and pretty much head home after that?
Yeah, I remember I had told my girlfriend after day 1, I was like, hey, you know, if I do good, if I win 3-4 games out of my first 3-4 games, I'll probably end up looking for another flight. And she's like, that's fine, like as long as you make some money. But I told her after the first loss in tie, I was like, I'm going home.
Oh man, yeah. But hey, you know, you know, it is what it is, man. You know, you did what you could, but I mean, again, very few people get there, first of all, and the fact that you're doing it like on the first year that you've gone to regionals to play it seriously, like that's quite an accomplishment, you know. So and that's how you build it up, you know. I mean, that's how you build it up. So but yeah, so okay, so man, so in closing, before we kind of wrap it up, you know, any well, I guess, yeah, shout outs or anyone you want to thank that's helped you test it, or you know, anyone in particular you want to recognize that's helped you gotten here at this point, or anybody out there particularly, or you know, doesn't have to be a card player, you know, just anyone. This is your moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, shout out to the pocket. You know, Lugia was in my first deck option, and every time I had a question about Lugia, you know, hey, should I set up this energy, or should I set up the Mencino early or not? I asked, you know, Leo. Leo is the Lugia master, so shout out to him. And of course, shout out to Ray and Cheeto and Puff. Those guys were, you know, very, very fun to travel with, and I would like to do it again. And of course, Leo for opening up the pocket and having a place for us to play every week.
That's cool, man. Yeah, so there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is gonna be a wrap here, and you know, now you heard it. You heard a day 2 player at one of the largest tournaments at the Orlando Regionals. And any chance of you going to the internationals or NAIC this year? If you have a chance to go,
I mean, I'm gonna try to go to NAIC. I know it's in Louisiana. When years prior, it's been in Columbus. You know, who wants to go to Columbus, Ohio? Sorry about that, Columbus, Ohio. But I'm gonna try my best to go to New Orleans for NAIC.
Yeah. And
see what an IC is about.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, I know we still have Indy coming up, and then, you know, that's kind of like the last regional before, or one of the last regionals in North American, and then it's going to wrap up at NAIC, and then of course Worlds. So yeah, All right, everyone. Well, this is KG from Jaw 7. I want to thank Cesar for being here today and giving his insight and input and his information of making D2 Orlando Regionals. That's going to be a wrap today. And, you know, now we have the local cups going on this weekend at Stronghold Kaboom. So we'll see how we do. And let's see if Cesar could... have you ever gone to dub before, League Cup? I think you have, right? Or no?
No, I've gone second a couple times.
Right.
But I haven't gotten that cup win.
Right. Yeah. Against Lugia Master, right, Leo? So
yeah, against Lugia. I mean, Leo and Brian. They got my number in the finals at Cups.
Okay, well, I mean, let's continue this streak, man. You never know. This could be it for you. This two Saturday and Sunday. So, but yeah. So right now, South Texas has their League Cup at Stronghold this Saturday, and then League Cup on Kaboom this Sunday. So, all right. Well, that's gonna be a wrap. Thank you, everyone. This is KG from Draw 7 signing off. Have a good one and peace.